This first vlog from Iceland captures my first 3 days. Days that were mostly filled with a conference, not travel. Coming straight from months in tropical weather, my very first impression of Iceland was simple. It's cold. But somehow, from the very first night, warmth arrived. Like magic. And through the conference, I learned how Icelanders face the cold in their own unique way. A chilly summer and nights as bright as day. Iceland is full of beautiful contradictions. So join me now as the journey through this land of wonder begins. After saying goodbye to tea at Munich airport, I boarded a flight to Reykjavík, Iceland. It was already past 10 p.m. when I took off again. Can you believe it? On a completely random flight to Reykjavík, I found myself sitting right next to a faculty member from my department, someone who had only joined last year. What are the chances? I arrived in Reykjavík well past midnight, naively thinking I could just wait out the night at the airport. But then, T offered to share his accommodation with me. I had no idea just how cold Icelandic summers could be. In that moment, to my utterly unprepared self, T felt nothing short of an angel. Thanks to T, I had a warm and comfortable place to rest. And the next morning, we headed out on a little breakfast hunt together. I still can't believe how cold the summer is in Iceland. I'm really sensitive to the cold. Honestly, my trip had already gone on longer than expected. And with work getting hectic around this time, I ended up flying to Iceland with almost no preparation. T's kindness that morning was more than I could have hoped for. After breakfast, he gave me the space to rest somewhere warm and comfortable until my check-in at 3 p.m. I boiled some eggs, had coffee, and, most importantly, left for the hostel I'd booked wrapped in the warm jacket he lent me. We were barely more than acquaintances, which made his thoughtfulness all the more special. It's something I won't forget, and I truly hope I can return the kindness someday. Now I finally get to feel the streets of Iceland properly. And wow, it's cold. I kept muttering, "It's so cold," over and over as I made my way to the hostel I had booked. Ever since I tried staying at a hostel for the first time in Saigon, I've had no hesitation choosing them again. For long-term travelers like me, they're clearly a smart choice, and somehow they soften the feeling of traveling alone. I lived in Hong Kong, famously one of the most expensive cities in the world, for 3.5 years. So honestly, high prices while traveling don't really shock me anymore. For me, it's not so much about the price, but the value. In that sense, Iceland's prices were a bit disappointing. I'm sure the country's geography plays a big part in that. Summer in Iceland felt more like late autumn, quiet, a little bleak. The air was crisp and refreshing, but my body was still adjusting, and I felt a lingering sense of fatigue. On the second day, the conference officially began. I can still remember the distinctive sulfur smell of Iceland's hot water, but on a chilly morning, nothing feels more healing than a warm shower. After breakfast, I was working hard on my presentation for the next day in the hostel's common area when Ben messaged me, asking when I was finally coming to the conference venue. At that point, I had no more excuses left, so off to the campus I went. During my stay in Reykjavík, I never once used public transport. I do enjoy walking, but honestly, I was still adjusting to the cold, and moving was the only way to stay warm. Thanks to that, I became really familiar with the layout of the city. Even now, I can picture those streets so vividly. You might wonder, how cold could it really be? It's summer after all, but I'd been living in tropical countries since January this year. Summer is actually my favorite season, and I don't handle cold very well. So this sudden drop in temperature, my body just couldn't handle it. Every time I walked from my hostel to the University of Iceland for the conference, I ended up almost jogging just to stay warm. I guess you could call it efficient, commuting and cardio, all in one. As cold as it was, I have to say, the air in Iceland was incredibly fresh and clean. Every time I walked, it felt like my whole body was being purified. I sat in on a few sessions and listened to some fascinating talks. One fun thing I noticed at the conference was how Icelanders handle the cold, with wine and beer. Sure, there was tea and coffee too. Following Jim's lead, I even tried fermented shark and Icelandic vodka. Truly an enlightening experience. After wrapping up the day's events, I headed to the town center for dinner with Christine, whom I had met back in Slovenia. Her husband Anders had just arrived in Reykjavík as well, so the three of us shared a lovely meal together. And that night turned into yet another heartwarming surprise from this wonderful couple. That story, though, that one's for another episode. After saying goodbye to that sweet couple, I walked through downtown Reykjavík. It was already past 9:30 p.m., but still so bright outside. In Iceland, the sun barely sets during summer. It just kind of hangs there, gently lighting everything. As someone who loves the sun, I must say I really fell for Iceland's midnight light. The third morning in Reykjavík began. It was the day of my presentation, so I woke up feeling a bit nervous. I got ready at the hostel and then headed over to the conference venue, where I joined a group of colleagues for lunch before everything began. The conference focused on Eastern philosophy, and I was part of a panel on comparative philosophy. It was Icelandic break time again. Alongside the usual coffee and tea, there was beer from the organizers, whiskey from David in Poland, and salty liquor from Anders up north. Let's just say the conversations got warmer. Funny how it works, somehow I wasn't cold anymore. And it wasn't just me, everyone seemed to be warming up. Must have been the blessing of Bacchus. After the keynote brought the second day to a close, it was time for the conference dinner, a chance to unwind and connect over good food. Though it turned out to be more wine than dinner, the evening flowed along with traditional Icelandic music and a growing sense of merriment. Day 3 in Iceland. Somehow, I was finally getting used to the chill of the Icelandic summer. As I walked back to the hostel under a sky that looked more like midday than midnight, I couldn't stop smiling. A cool summer and a bright night. What a strange and delightful combination. With the conference coming to a close, it's finally time for an Icelandic adventure. Up next, a road trip through this otherworldly land. Stay with me. There's so much more to come.